Puff Daddy what he has. He has a partnership with Comcast. Now, Diddy probably thought that when he got this partnership with Comcast, that they would probably put him in all of the markets, all of the different states. And he's not even everywhere. He's on Time Warner, and he's being shown in LA, New York, of course, and Miami. I think he's being shown in Seattle and a few other states, but probably like altogether 8 states he's, Revolt TV is being broadcast in. So he's not even getting the kind of airplay that he should be getting, especially having a partnership with Comcast. This is because they know that if they really broadcast Revolt TV everywhere in all, 50 states, that it's going to be huge. It's going to blow up, and it's going to really start to get more people to buy up networks or try to put out more African American networks. Oprah has OWN, of course, and she owns that. She is also partnered with the Discovery and this Discovery Channel. She's partnered with them as well, and she still is not everywhere. I mean, she's in more markets than Diddy, but at the same time, in certain states, you can't get OWN unless you have a certain cable system or cable network or whatever. With public broadcasting, of course, you are at the mercy of the FCC. A lot of stuff is censored, and you have to follow a lot of guidelines. And of course, with paid cable, they show everything. So this is a big difference. But, if Oprah and Diddy could have put their stuff out on public TV, it would be, broadcast more to the masses. You look at Bounce TV. If any of you have ever watched Bounce TV was actually created by Martin Luther King's son, Martin Luther King III, and some Congress guy, I forget what his name, but it was created by these two. And it's shocking that they actually allowed them to have this network. And of course, you can't deny Dr. King's son, African American network, because that'll just create a lot of controversy. So they have a network, and Bounce TV, they show some good movies, a lot of back in the day movies. A lot of those movies I was talking about, like Superfly and them, you see a lot of those movies on that network. And you also have Centric, which is now owned by Viacom, but at the same time they still show a lot of African American shows and a lot of African American themed content. But the thing is, as I said, if you don't have a network, if you don't own a network, there's very little power that you have, and you are at the mercy of the big six. Now, with all that being said, after they start buying up the networks and, the whole media view was being changed slowly, a lot of people was losing their jobs, and, the whole image of African Americans started to slowly change in the late 80s and 90s, of course, but they could not deny us television. They couldn't deny that we was the undisputed champion of TV. And this is something that they're not going to tell you, but when you look at the numbers, you can see clearly America love our content, as we can see that today. We are imitated everywhere, not just in America, all over the world. African Americans, we are imitated more than any other race on the planet, and that's a fact. And nobody will deny that. So what you had with all of those TV shows, Dolomite and all those movies and stuff, you had white people loving it. White people love Shaft. They watched this stuff and they loved it. The ratings was through the roof for all of these African American shows. I mean, you'll be hard pressed to find a white person that grew up in the 70s to tell you that they don't know about these shows and these movies. They knew about them. They watched them. They made money. So, of course, they had to continue that. They couldn't deny the fact that people was in love with African Americans and our culture. So you couldn't just flood the TV with just a bunch of stuff, a bunch of new shows that, wasn't nobody going to watch. Because, of course, this is, after all, still about money. People want to get paid. So what happened? You still see the late 80s, I should say, up into the 90s and about 2002. I mean, a lot of you don't remember. I know some time has passed now, but we dominated television. We dominated. I mean, let's take a look at some of these shows. You have Martin, The Parenthood, Arsenio Hall Show. We have Family Matters, In Living Color, The Cosby Show, Fresh Prince, Living Single, In the House, LL Cool J, Hanging with Mr. Cooper, Sister Sister, Smart Guy, The Jamie Foxx Show, Steve Harvey Show, Moesha, Different World, Wayne's Brothers. You still had the Cosby Show. They still were showing reruns of Good Times and the Jeffersons. And I mean, we were still being played. Even the old movies were still coming on from the 70s and 80s. Dolomite and Shaft, the TV show, was still coming on. All of this stuff was still coming on in the 90s. Now, by 1999, all of those shows I just named was gone off the air. By 2002, they were gone. Everything was gone, I should say, by 2002. Most of them by 99, but all of them by 2002 was gone off the air. Every last one of those shows I just named, off the air, gone. No more new shows. Now, you get some reruns if you have cable, and that's a big thing. If you have paid TV. So it's not getting to everybody. So, gone. And they slowly weaned white America off of African American television. Of course, as I said, somebody was taking notes. When you go back and you look at all of those TV shows, I mean, look at the content. You had successful African Americans. I mean, living single. I mean, Maxine was a lawyer. You had Queen Latifah owning her own magazine company. This is a good image of African Americans. Bill Cosby Show. I mean, even with Family Matters, Carl Winslow was a cop. You had Steve Urkel, who would, he would destroy the Big Bang Theory cast. He was far more smarter than those guys. So, I mean, just pay attention to how we was cast. The image of African Americans back then. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Uncle Phil, millionaire judge, living in a mansion in Bel-Air. I mean, just pay attention to the image. Today we got Empire. Y'all so hype about Empire. Oh, Empire, this and that. People hype and throwing Empire parties for that garbage. Come on. Yes, I give it to them. African Americans own a record label, but I mean, are you kidding me? Just pay attention to the content and don't get caught up in all that. It's a smack in the face. We waited so long to get another African American show on TV, and they give us that bullshit. They give us that. We could have got something way better, something more respectable. And this is not the time for a show like Empire. I know it got good ratings and people are watching it, but you got to pay attention to how they are portraying our image and how they are putting us out there. It's not a good light. But in any case, they had to basically wean white America off of African American TV shows. And by 2002, they did that. And, it was replaced with, some cartoons for a while, and then a lot of old shows. And then eventually we have what we have today. So now we know since the late 80s, even before that technically, but really since the 80s, as far as the media goes, there has been an all-out assault on the image of African Americans. They wanted to reverse the roles because you can't have white America looking the way it was looking in the 60s and 70s. I mean, this is something that a lot of you are not going to see unless you go back and you start watching the old shows. As I said, Adam 12, Dragnet actually still comes on TV. Most of those shows still come on. Highway Patrol still comes on. And you will see that theme constantly. It's always white people. Not simply because they didn't want to put black people in the shows, but those two shows, Dragnet and Adam 12, was based off of real events, things that actually happened. And it's, always white people. So they had to change that image. And you can see that, that was taken note of. And you still have to get these networks because you got to remember, we're talking about 60s and 70s. You had, normal people owning these networks. And when Frank Stanton put out the whole speech and when he talked about, show that you support civil rights in your music and your movies and your networks or what have you, a lot of people, they loved the speech. It resonated with them. And you had owners who genuinely was for civil rights. And they wanted to make a change and, make things better. And they was bought out. So now all those people who's just rich people who own a network, who wanted to do the right thing, was bought up by these corporations who obviously had an agenda to destroy the image of African Americans. And once, crack hit, then gangster rap hit. And then they took away all of our shows that made us look, good and decent. We see what we are left with. And it's obviously clear that this is by design. But you have to really start to look at how everything went downhill, especially as far as the news media, because while you can look at Martin and, you know, Family Matters and Cosby Show and all these TV shows, this is fiction. This is all stuff that somebody wrote down on a piece of paper. The main damaging thing to African Americans is the news. And that is the news media, because the news is real. Cops, another thing, that's a real show, real things happening. But the news show you exactly what's going on. So they interjected, you know, cocaine, crack in the black community. Watch us destroy ourselves, then sent the media in there to point the fucking cameras and say, look at these niggas. They was portraying us as this lazy, drug dealing, murdering, you know, disgrace to America. You know, just a burden on America, and we this and that, and we all know how they talk about us. And the news media is the most influential weapon that they use to put that image out. And it has been the main reason why you can't walk down the street at night. You can't walk down the street at night and have a white person coming towards you, and you black and you got on a hood. That white person is going to cross the street 90% of the time, especially if it's a woman and she by herself. She's going to cross the street. This is why, you know, the stereotype of angry black man has come into existence, because the media, they just casting us in this negative light. If we killing each other and killing our own people and selling poison to each other and doing all kinds of negative stuff, imagine what we're going to do. Imagine what we would do to a white person. And this is constantly in their head. You know, what would they do to us if they're doing this to their own people? You know, what would they do to us? Something has to be done about these black people. Oh, I don't want to live in a black neighborhood. Oh, I don't want a black person in my neighborhood. So the media has played this, you know, seriously huge role in shaping the image of African Americans and how we are looked at by white America. So we got to start taking note. You got to take note of this stuff. Now, if you into this whole, you know, Black Power movement, or into this whole, you know, conscious movement, then you start noticing things, you start picking up on secret societies. And the main theme, or the main society, I should say, that you start running into when you start doing research is the boule, or the gay boule. And I talked about them, I believe, in a previous video, but they are very important when it comes to this subject, you know, media. And you remember when Dave Chappelle was talking about, as I said, putting on a dress and all this and that. You know, this is a part of this whole gay boule. If you've seen the video with Richard Pryor, because this shows you how far back this stuff goes. You know, putting on dresses and having to do gay sex favors and sex acts to get, you know, a contract. This goes back far, because Richard Pryor was doing a roast, and, you know, he basically, you know, said this. Take a look and see if you can pick up on what he's basically talking about. Take a look.
Next to her is what we call Miss Thing. We call him that with love and affection, as all of us know. Well, he hasn't let us down yet, has he? We've been friends a long time, and I sure wish you'd return my red handkerchief, because my wife been wondering where it was. I hope it still has her perfume scent on it. But really, Paul, it's really been a pleasure working with you, because we worked together many years ago on the Red Fox show. We started writing together, and we walked into the office with the white man, and Paul what he did was sucked his dick. I must say, Paul had a sense of humor. He didn't let him come in his mouth.